Turns out it was a wrong number. It happens. How do wrong numbers happen? They happen to people who don't have electronic phone books. Whatever. I'm not going to report them. And even if I could report them, would anything come of it? The idea of taking, what's he called? The idea of taking Silverbolt, which was very much a Concorde-inspired thing, and turning it into kind of a weird spaceship thingy for scattershot. I'm not entirely certain how I feel about that. Nor am I entirely certain about, well, the end result. I mean, do I look at this and say scattershot? No. I mean, he's got the gun in the right place, and there's probably no possible way you could ever pull off that alternate fourth mode with the cannon facing the wrong direction, which we all did at least once. Some of us more than once. Wings are a bit of a stretch, though, because the wings are only hinged right there, but they come all the way back here. Do they peg into anything? No, they don't. So I worry at some point that these wings are going to pop open at some point. What does that represent? Because you've got the two V-tails here. You got the V-tails here, and then you've got this gun kind of in the top here. So I'm not entirely certain. Oh, by the way, this is scattershot. This is Combiner Wars scattershot. A heavy remold of Combiner Wars. I just said his name. What was his name? Silverbolt. You know, every time I say the name Silverbolt, I can't help but think of the Fusor. Yeah, that's where I know the name Silverbolt from. That's how I know it. So I look at the Concorde and I'm like, well, it's just a Concorde. No, that's Silverbolt. No, that's Silverbolt. No, that's Silverbolt. No, that's Silverbolt. No, shut up. So yeah, and what is this stupid thing on the, oh, I forgot. They painted the whole gun. Come on, you tell me they couldn't just... You tell me they couldn't just mold it in colors? They had to paint it? Why? The barrels have been reinforced with a metal rod down each one. And no way on God's green earth am I going to push these all the way in. Except I did, just as I said it. Having a gun hang out on the bottom is all well and good, but does this scream scattershot? No, not really. No. I mean, it's got the right colors, but this nose is just, like, wrong. And, you know, sticking this underneath isn't helping matters. You can get away with sticking the gun underneath underneath jets for the most part, but when it comes to scattershot, where his entire nose is a giant gun, this just ain't doing it. Does the nose extend? No. But this flips over. What does this do? Oh, I know what that is. I bet that's a dumb landing gear. Yeah. Well, I suppose they got that part right. Not that we really need to worry about landing gear on something like this. Anyways, scattershot. They kind of took the part of the jet that was like convincing and then just threw it away for something it exists, and I'm not convinced. That's the wrong color too. You know, Scattershot's nose, well, okay, Scattershot his nose was previously pink and white. This is red and white, so they kind of failed there. I suppose they just wanted to get rid of the pink. Whatever. And I'm guessing this is one of those cases where you just fold the plane mode up and it becomes a robot with airplane parts attached to it rather than an airplane with robot parts attached to it, which is the main reason why I was not entirely thrilled with what's he called? Silverbolt in the first place. Oh, goody. Oh, this is going to be fun. Oh, boy. Oh, boy, oh, boy. Okay. That wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be, but this might be. Oh, no, it's not. Phew. Okay, I'm glad they take friction into consideration at Hasbro. That's a good thing. It's kind of sad how this is as big as Voyagers get these days. For comparison, this is Transformers Universe Skyfire or Skyfall. I remember when I reviewed this for CDX, I screwed up his name every single time in the video. So I'm going to say this is this guy, which is just a repaint, but not a remold of the Ultra Class, was they still called Ultra Class? I think this was Voyager, Silverbolt. I mean, it's exactly the same. The head design is the same, the shoulders are the same, everything about it's just a straight repaint. This is actually the third repaint. This is a Walmart exclusive repaint, too. I think it was. Should be. Anyways, yeah. And I've still got the batteries in it all these years later. Surprisingly, the batteries still work all these years later. I should remove them when I'm done here with it. Anyways, this was the standard for Silverbolt. And then you compare it to this, and the shoulders are about the same. The face is, well, I don't know Silverbolt's face very well, so I can't make that judgment, but it kind of, yeah. So, although to be fair, Silverbolt had eyes instead of a visor. So, I mean, Scattershot did have a visor, so they kind of got that part right. But for the most part, and again, looking at this, not as Skyfire, Skyfall, whatever he's called. I'm so sorry, dude. I'm screwing up your name again. I don't mean to. I just am. Versus, you know, the Silverbolt remake for Combiner Wars. The shoulders are the same, the chest is kind of the same, I guess. Oddly no sound effects though. Of which he had only one when he was in robot mode. He had 3 sounds in vehicle mode and 1 sound in robot mode, like, and also the transformation sound, so. Say, what was the original Transformer sound, which I'm not going to attempt to recreate here? What was the original sound from the 80s? Like, where did that come from? What was that? Was it just an electronic noise, tonal thing they came up with, or was it based on something else? What is the transformation noise from the 80s? Someone tell me? I can tell you this much, though. The guns are very different. But anyways, my whole point for bringing up that Ultra Class figure, which I completely remembered as I was shooting that section just now, is that this is a very tiny Voyager Class figure. A very tiny figure. Suddenly I don't have any Titans Returns figures within reach. And this is, thus far, the only Voyager Class Combiner Wars figure that I've got. So, I mean, it looks nice, although I'm very, very worried that these wings are going to be broken at some point. Not by me, but by some poor, unfortunate little sap who doesn't know better yet. Like, they're going to bend them. They are going to break them. So, yeah. Okay. And then, they lined that up just right so that those wings would line up with those mini wings. That's a terrible shield, by the way. I don't even know. It's a beam shield emitter with a gun. Wow, those are really tight joints. Of course, they're supposed to be. Wow, I'm going to start sneezing here soon because dust. They better be tight because they're going to be part of the combined form. You know, I can take his head off. And his face was originally completely blue. Oh, there goes Light Steed again. I can't believe for a minute that's what he was originally called back in the day. Oh, this poor thing has been through hell and back. Well, the forehead vent is not the same. The fact that his entire face is painted, whatever. Let's get the same kind of scowl, I guess, or grimace. Although they upgraded the detail on his cheeks. Kind of looks like it, kind of. Like if you squint at it, it looks the same. Okay. Ooh, that's a heavy click. It's a heavy click for a shoulder joint, hip joint, a shoulder joint. That gun is really stupid. Hooray. All of them have weapons except for strafe, unless these count as over-the-shoulder guns. I'd be happy if these were over-the-shoulder guns, but I don't think they are, unfortunately. Well, that doesn't really count. Well, I guess it does if he's flying into his enemies, so... over-the-shoulder guns? I don't know. Although maybe strafe was responsible for... is it scrounge? Yeah, scrounge and Cybax. Whatever. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. Nothing inherently like, ah, that's terrible. I think the waist joint, how that transforms, is not exactly up to snuff. Like, well, I suppose for a figure this size, it wouldn't be too bad. I'm looking for a little more bulk in the waist than, you know, that's associated with a tank transformer. I suppose I'm just being a little picky there. So structurally, I mean, despite my bemoaning, I don't think that structurally there's anything inherently wrong with that waist joint. If you had any of the tank repaints of this, or even, what's he called, Nose Cone himself, let me know how that turned out, please, because I don't know. And if there's something to look out for, let me know about that too, please. And the vehicle modes, for the most part, I think 2 out of 5 is not a bad arrangement. Well, 1, 2, 3 out of 5 is not bad. These two, I don't like where this is going, and I'm slightly disappointed that it's rolling backwards for some strange reason, so. Although I suppose the fact that his feet were facing forward in the G1 version is something they intentionally did here. Maybe that they were intentionally doing that here. Do I want to mess with you two? They're part of the set. Why not? But what about Cosmos? Well, I didn't know. I didn't remember. I also feel obligated to point out some of the Combiner Wars Titans, I guess. Some of them were intentionally designed to... This has got to be a G1 or G2 reference, because the only one I'm aware of is Cosmos, so it's just this guy. Some combiners, but not this, not Computron, were specifically designed to have torso plates or chest plates that would open up to accept a Scout or a Minicon of some kind. Computron was one of the few that didn't, even though it has the area left over from Superion. Is that right, Superion? Was Superion the one who, I don't remember all of a sudden. This is my first exposure to Cybax. It's just a little thing. Wasn't this the X25 or something? Or maybe it was the X47? I don't remember. Anyways, you just stand him upright, I guess. Nope, you fold the wings up. So that's Cybax. One-step Transformers at their finest. He's a Minicon, you know, so. Is he a Minicon? I'm not sure. I mean, he's the size of a Minicon, but is he classified as a Minicon? I'm inclined to say no. You hear one of the problems with Legends with the Universe Cosmos is really difficult to get his head out and get to stay out. But fortunately for Scrounge here, he's got a little peg on the back of his alien helmet, whatever it is. You can just push up on his ponytail and then it pops off. This has got to be inspired. This has got to be like a bootleg or something that this was based off of. I don't know. Oh, before I forget. The reason I was disappointed with, or I mentioned it with Autobot Cosmos, is you can take the actual, the white and black version of this guy, whatever that was called, yeah, that, and you can plug it into the front of Cosmos, because why not? So anyways, yeah, you can do that with Cosmos. But I didn't have, but that version, the Titans Returns reissue, doesn't come with this figure, so. Oh, waste swell. Oop, nope, waste disconnect. Okay, I'll be sure to look for that when I get Cosmos. Oh, that's probably why that happened. Yeah. Like this. I'm going to enjoy Cosmos when I get my hands on him. Cosmos is colored better. This is just kind of a half-assed kind of looking thing. It's got to be a reference to another figure, but I don't know, because I don't know my G1 that well. I feel like this is what Beast Wars Unicron was going to look like at some point. You know, thank goodness they waited until Energon, and even then he was still kind of covered in a bunch of half spheres and stuff like that. Primus, Cybertron Primus managed to fix the problem with like integrating the curves in, but he did it better. Yeah. Right now he's like, don't pull my hair. So it's really difficult to move his head side to side. Nope, his head just sank down. Joy. Which, like I said, I'd heard that about Cosmos, so scrounge is not too different. Ball joints all over the place. Can't say I disagree with that. Ankles up by his knees. Whatever. Guns at the side of his knees. Whatever. No, I take it back. He's got a pair of molded-in guns on either side of his forearms. Oh, both sides of his forearms. Cool. So he's actually got quad guns. Quad barrel on each arm. Sweet. I disagree with the colors, but hey, I'm glad I got them at all. I hope those are all on frame. I haven't been watching closely. Not that I ever could. Oh my god, you can't even... He gets cut off. You can't even see frickin' Strafe. I've been talking about him all this time and you can't see him. My reference point got moved. Grr. Ah, my reference point got screwed up. Grr. Alright, I'm going to clean this up a little bit and then we'll get to it. Okay, so I've rearranged a little bit here. I recommend that Scattershot, Light Steed, and Nose Cone be switched back to vehicle mode as opposed to Strafe and Afterbreaker, who are recommended to stay in robot mode. So we'll be proceeding from there. Oh, great. How the hell do I get this out of here? Oh, great. As an addendum to earlier, I want to point out that I saw ToysRUs.com, may rest in peace, which I'd never ordered from before. They had Combiner Wars G2 repainted Superion available. So I tried to order it in their last week, but unfortunately it didn't go through. They said, sorry, we're out of stock. So I did what I could. I mean, I was raised in the era of G2, so G2 Superion, like, I've got nothing good or bad against it, but it would have been Superion, so... Which means I would have ended up with two of these eventually. Note to self, never put these under here again. Although considering I'll be displaying it as Computron, I don't think it'll matter so much if these go under there or not. By the way, I'd like to point out, as a leftover of Silverbolt, you can still totally see the cockpit windows along the side. And the weird thing is that Scattershot's nose, and this is the Scattershot part here, the Scattershot part has windows and door on either side to continue that. Not quite sure why. They creative treated it as like, I don't know, cooling fans or something like that, or some sort of radiator holes or something along those lines. And they could have continued it all the way in here, at least imply that it was that, but no, for whatever reason, there's a very much a there's a door in the fuselage there. Hashtag missed opportunity. I also found out that if you angle the nose at this joint down here, if you angle the nose just right, you actually can get the wings to or you can get the little wings to either side of the nose. What are those called? I'm blanking on what they're called. Anyways, you can get those to line up with Scattershot's wings. They don't tab, but they do slot in with friction. So it's a thing, I guess. It probably just says open this door, but it doesn't say how or where you can grab it from because it's so tiny. And oh, by the way, gray figure on a black background with red highlights. Actually, it's kind of a dark wine red. Yeah, it just says open the door. Is it supposed to be Superion's head? I'm not sure. Not really. Oh yeah, it is Superion's head. Yeah, it's not a remold. They just repainted it. Okay, so this is actually Superion's head, but they're just passing it. It's Copytron's colors, but it's Superion's mold. What are you gonna do? Oh, I know. Don't buy it. Wait, it says take off the gun, and then it just attaches it. What? Attaches it where? Yeah, they tell you to flip the gun around, or they tell you to flip this thing around, then they tell you to take it off, and then in the next picture it's reattached. Huh? Wait a second, you want me to what? No, I am not putting the... Huh. So that's how a combiner works, joint works. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, I see what they're saying. All right. Somehow they managed to get two separate legs work together with a single joint. Somehow they made that work, which is such a difficult thing to do for even outside of Transformers. It's such a difficult thing to accomplish, and they pulled it off with minimal impact on the other mode, by the way. Wow. You want me to use my thumbnails on a ratcheting joint? Great idea. Great. That means I need to keep a pair of... Oh, don't push it in further, dumbass. Well, let's see if friction will solve the problem. Nope, because I don't have any friction to offer. Oh, FFS. Really? Great. Yeah, for a light steed, it is really difficult to get that joint out of there. All the songs would be buzzing through my head. Why does it have to be that one? You know, sometimes when you work at church, the themes just get stuck in your head as an AV technician. You have to follow along with the lyrics and then switch it over when everybody's ready to read the next line. And so when you do multiple services over and over and over, the songs, the hymns tend to follow you for the rest of the week. So I've currently got one of those going through my head. I'm kind of not taking a chance on these guys just because I'm new enough to all of this, like I can't quite guess where it's going to go. So my transformationist ego is going to have to be put on the back burner for now. I'm not taking any chances. And I've been known to do that, so... Of course, if the picture were bigger and actually in the color I could actually see... Wait, you want me to leave his arms where? That cannot be right. No way. No way. You want me to do what? Sometimes being a transformationist, on the other hand, allows you to see things that the manufacturer might not have figured out when they were making the instructions. No. No, that's not what I want to do. Fuck you. Okay, all the heaps of praise I threw on you earlier, don't ruin it for me now. I know where you live. I almost wish they'd found some way to get the other wheel on the outside so it'd be a little more like that. Those don't hold very well. It doesn't even snap into place. It just fits there. I would think that it would snap, but it doesn't. The little sliding connector ports, I thought they would slide back across the combiner port, or not the port, but the, I don't know what to call it. I thought they would slide across the top of that. So like when you insert it, it slides all the way over. I'm expecting it to slide all the way back over, but for whatever reason, it either it's going very slightly or it's not going at all. I can't decide. And thusly, I can't decide if it's a quality control issue where they're not sliding all the way back properly, or if by design they're designed to not slide any further. It's hard to tell. Really? We're going to do this? Really? How long have you been anticipating that for the moment when I would realize that when you turn this forward, you actually can't bend it because those get in the way? How long have you been anticipating that? And you can't split them apart because, well, it'll get in the way of the torso. They knew this was coming and they did it anyways. Okay, now I'm upset. Now I'm officially upset. They got I feel like I'm getting blue-balled. You know, like they got that close to like nothing wrong engineering-wise. They got that close. Like design aesthetics, whatever, but engineering is where it counts. What am I breaking? Engineering is the important part for me, and if you don't get that right, then you know you're gonna earn the wrath of Ava Unit 4A. So this guy has no functional elbow whatsoever. Wow. Color me unimpressed. So like I suppose you can get it up like that. This is the left shoulder, so it attaches this way. So I suppose you can tilt those up like that, but you know, who the hell has big old claws on the front like that? I want to say, well, Grimlock does. He's got that. Oh wow, there's barely any friction on that hand. Did they freaking paint these? No. Stop doing that. There's a difference between being secure and overcompensating by breaking. Stop it! Who is it has the claws on the front? Gundam Epion. Gundam Epion had a pair of huge claws on the front of the forearms that basically overlaid the top of the hands. So it's basically like having this all the time. That's what I was thinking of. Having something blocking the front like that. But these are not claws, and they could just have easily have gotten an extra set of joints in there to fold the wings back. But they didn't, because I don't know. I usually don't have a reason to bitch and moan about Transformer designs because I usually don't buy Transformers that I already haven't researched and like, okay, this is an issue, this is not an issue, is this going to bug me, can I overlook this? You know, I already do a lot of that very often. Not in this case. And then these guys just because they can. Oh, and his guns. He's got 3 sets of guns here. What am I supposed to do with these? They put pegs on there and then they paint them over and the paint creates enough of a thickness that it won't fit properly. Why do they paint guns? I mean, why do they paint these? Why not just mold them in mold them all in white? Maybe it's because of, I don't know, what the mold or what the tree originally was when this was manufactured as something different. I don't know. That's ironic. Here it is going now 30 years since Computron. Well, I've got him. Here it is going on 30 years now since Computron brought us these massive things, which I don't know if they ever worked out whether they were attached to the back of the legs or attached to the thighs or attached to the back, and you're just supposed to kind of ignore the fact that they can wiggle. Old joint. Whether they can wiggle up and down like that. So, I mean, whatever, it was G1, just, you know, whatever. So here it is, 30 years later, and something else awkward ended up on the back of his knees. How about that? How ironic is that? Wow. I never thought I'd see the day. Should they have remolded this? Not necessarily. It's, yeah, and I can see, yeah, it's kind of close enough to what's here. It's like, we can leave it alone. Are these decals? No, those are tamped on. Alright. The blue is kind of nice and refreshing, and there were little hints of blue anyways, so. Oh, I guess they're trying to say that this is these. Alright. At least the nose cone's pointing in the right direction. Amazing. I never thought I'd get another chance at this guy again. I mean, getting that is like, okay, I got that, hooray, whatever, but like, getting a second shot, satisfying. Now, of course, something this posable at this size, usually there's articulation problems. Now, I've already spotted one here, so that's something you just can't avoid that, I guess. But I want to see how well these joints handle up. 90 degrees. Can't really... Let's get this gun out of here. This biggerer, dumberer, gunnerer that I've come up with, this thing. I'll probably be able to find a place to stick all these extra bits in later on. But anyways. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What happened? Oh, right, the thing I'm fighting there is happening there. Yep. And it's refreshing compared to Super Sentai that I followed the majority of my life, and Transformers not far behind, I'd like to point out. Joints are usually 45 degrees, 45 degree increments. This one does it in 30 degree increments, which is nice. So 30, 60, 90. That's refreshing. You know, I don't get to see that very often. And even Transformers itself, they don't... I suppose Transformers in general, they usually don't limit themselves to, 45 degrees and then 90 degrees, or in increments of 30. Usually it's smaller, and like increments of 15 is usually what you'll get. Or, some variation thereof. Usually it's increments of 15 degrees or something like that. 15 to 20 degrees thereabouts. So this is, I kind of like it sticking up a bit more. I'll leave it like that. Now, moment of truth, the legs. I'll put his arms up so he can balance himself. And yeah, here's these things on the back here. How ironic is that they I don't know if that was avoidable or if that's an intentional callback. It's kind of hard to tell. But anyways, they did it again. So because of that, the knees are going to be restricted to 90 degrees back, whatever. let's see how good those knee joints are. Ooh, they're very good, and they hold very nicely. Tell me the truth. Oh, if you could do that little bounce, then you know whether it's a good joint or not. I suppose that's the sacrifice of making a hip joint double as a shoulder joint, which, to be fair, is unusual for combiners. I mean, across my collection, it's very rare. I'd actually have to sit down and think of the number of times that that's actually happened, let alone how many times it's happened in Transformers. So, you know, the fact that they got it to do this is good. If you can get it to do that without bouncing, then you know that a lot of people would have complained, oh, the shoulders are too tight. I can understand it was used for the hip, but the shoulders are too tight. Eh. So I guess it's kind of the, but really, are you ever going to pose your figure in this fashion? And the answer is probably not. So I suppose it's understandable that that's going to happen. And it's nice that the transformation joint itself, the connection point, is not where the joint is. There's actually a dedicated articulation joint, a dedicated posing joint underneath that. That's kind of the crucial thing. That's what makes this a good design, is they somehow managed to integrate both at the same time. And it's something that it had over its Scramble City predecessors as well. No, can't do it. Yeah, because there's probably a lot of torque in here. Just oh yeah, I can hear the difference. I can hear the springs. See, I told you my hearing was really good. I can hear the difference in the springs, the frequencies. Listen to me, Mr. Audio Video Technician, talking about frequencies. This joint, this axis of rotation is not the same joint as that one. The springs are not as tight, and there probably isn't as much room in the shoulder joint here. If the shoulder had been thicker, this joint might have been stronger, but it didn't need to be necessarily. So it allows you to do it and allows it to hold, but if you shake it, yeah, it's going to pop down. So I'll call that acceptable. That's a pass. That is acceptable. Really, it comes down to whether or not it can pose. No, not really. The ankles have a pivot like this, but they don't. The ankles can pivot like this, but they can't. They don't have an up and down motion. So you can do this, but you cannot do this. So leaning is just going to have to be, you know, that the what's it called? The give of all the joints and all the engineering of the different plastic. That's just how that's going to work out. Oh, right, I forgot. He doesn't have another elbow joint. Also, his legs keep liking to pop apart. And at the same time, they keep squashing themselves, because why not? Whoop. Whoop. What happened? Head can turn side to side, but not up and down, so it's not a ball joint. I suppose it wouldn't need to be a ball joint, but whoop, there it is. I knew that wasn't sticking together. It's designed to hold these parts, but not really to hold a pose. Not a lot of beef going on here either, which is... when you have to turn 5 humanoid robots into combiner limbs, that's a very difficult thing to do, and even in 2016, toy engineers are still struggling with it, because you've got the proportions of the individual limbs you have to deal with, and then you have the proportions of the overall robot you have to deal with. Mixing and matching them is not an easy thing to do. Well, I tried. Certainly not going to be able to do that. Well, maybe I can. I don't know. Just pegged it. The scatter shot's legs just they peg together with friction. They don't actually snap into place, which means eventually the weight of the arm is going to bend the leg forward, which is, which you may not want. Like bending in 15-degree increments is all well and good, but this is one of those things where like a ball joint or a friction joint of some kind pays off. But in this case, because of its Okay, so I shot all of that on Monday, and here it is Thursday of the same week. So, initial reaction is gone, and I have no idea what happened to the last section. Like the iris of the camera was open, and it didn't make any of the bleeps or bloops to indicate like a power loss or that the memory was full. I mean, on the contrary, the memory wasn't full. It didn't tell me anything. It was just it was like a dead fisheye look the whole time. It was just staring at me the whole time, and I was looking at it. It's like, yeah, I can see it's recording. Just for whatever reason, it didn't finish. It just cut off the recording right where you saw it there. So yeah, initial reaction or initial conclusions are gone. Um, I like this for the most part. I mean, considering what I had to go through to get the original Computron, G1 Computron. And then I think, yes, absolutely, this was a good conversion. Yes, all of these are repaints, but they did add some Computron specific stuff. His feet and arms, or yeah, right, his feet and his hands, those are brand new for Computron. Scatter shots, nose cone and wings, those are also unique. The wings on Strafe, those are new. Actually, all the wings. So the nose cone, basically Strafe is every single jet fighter that they ever made. For Combiner Wars, it's just he's got new wings, and a new nose cone section, and then he's got a new head design. All of them have new head sculpts, if I remember correctly, to match them. They're fairly close representations of the G1. What are they called? Technobots. The Technobot heads. They're respectively close. I might have been kind of at the time, but the more I looked at them afterwards, I was like, yeah, okay, those are respectable enough. Um, Afterbreaker is a remold. He's got a new nose cone thingy here, and that was kind of the only thing aside from the head. So yeah, Afterbreaker is not too different from the other motorcycle figures. Um, in terms of these two guys, Scrounge got a new head mold compared to Cosmos, so it's got a comic books was a comic book accurate head sculpt design. So that's the only remold he got. In terms of his little partner Cybax, um, I didn't address it in the video that you just saw. I asked, why is it that his legs come off? Well, technically, you're not supposed to take his legs off. Technically, what you're supposed to do is, you can't see it. You're supposed to slide them backwards. That's what you're supposed to do. And then his chest has a peg, and technically, yes, he is a target master, because target masters were robots, whether they're triple changers like this or not, target masters transformed into weapons for larger bots to use. So the other thing I'd like to point out, yeah, okay, so don't remove the foot section that slides back and forth. Don't remove that. You can move it back and forth, but don't take it off. It's not designed to come off. The other thing, I would highly strongly recommend that you not push in that chest tab, the handle. Do not push it all the way in, because it is a pain in the ass to get that tiny ass thing out of there. So don't keep that pushed in, ever. It's just not worth it. Let's see. In terms of things that I don't like, Scattershot's new parts
or at least his new vehicle mode parts. I don't like the decisions that were made with the nose cone. Or the nose fuselage section should have been shorter, and then the diameter should have been larger. That's what it should have been. I think that would have been a bit more appropriate, and they could have got it to fit in here. I also don't like how flimsy these wing sections are. They've got a gap in them, and that's all well and good for an artistic thing, but the problem is structurally they're not very sound. I think they're made of PVC. It's some sort of soft plastic. It's not the hard ABS of everything else. But getting the wings to stay together in either combined form or robot form, where it's exactly the same process, by the way. These do not tab into the nose, so they're constantly loose, and there's this bending motion which you're not supposed to do, but that's just the nature of how it works, I guess. And then when you put scattershot into vehicle mode, I don't like how the arms, or I'm sorry, the wings get pegged into the top of the arms, but then in order to get the wings folded up for robot mode or combined form, you have to bend. You have to intentionally flex the wing in order to peel it out of there, and I don't like that because eventually, despite the fact that it's a soft material, eventually it's going to cause warping and it's going to damage the wings, and eventually they're going to crack. So I'm not thrilled with how that worked out. Is he capable of putting is Computron capable of accepting a Legends class figure in his chest? I don't have any Legends class figures other than this guy. And that's not a Legends, by the way. I don't have a Legends class figure to stick in here, but I'm guessing that Computron and Superion, which is what this is, the original version of this is, I'm guessing both of those, they weren't really meant to have something stick in here. Speaking of sticking in here, something else that I'm not entirely thrilled with, and this applies equally to Silverbolt as well, is the way in which the lower legs peg into the center torso or whatever it is. There's a panel on the back of his shins, or the back of his lower legs, that peg into the back of the fuselage for the vehicle mode. And that happens in both vehicle mode and combined form, but you don't see it happen. Obviously, you don't see it happen in robot mode. But anyways, for combined forms specifically, what concerns me is because things are just tabbed in there with friction, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to see that it's going to lose the friction on this, and this is going to start happening on a regular basis, and I don't like that. And considering it's attached to a swivel joint right there for leg articulation, it swivels right there, and there's little or no friction right there. This is going to become a regular occurrence, and I'm not happy with that. Those should have tabbed in, and they don't, and I'm not happy about it. So, and then you have to take the time to free up both of your hands so that you can press in on those side torsos as hard as you possibly can, which also runs the risk of popping the chest section open, which is equally frustrating at times to get together. And just the way the legs accordion up to the sides of the torso, I mean, it looks nice, but structurally, since it serves as the torso, it's not very good. So you essentially what ends up happening is you want to move the shoulder, but at the same time you have to hold the shoulder, you have to hold the side torso in place at the same time. So I'm not happy with how that went. That's a point of contention with me, and that's an engineering thing. That's not quality control. The scissoring motion for the transformation between robot and vehicle mode, and this doesn't apply to nose cone and light steed because copyright apparently, but it does apply to strafe and afterbreaker. You can see, but I can't see the line that goes right down the middle of the side of the thighs. Is that the thighs? No, that's the shin. I'm sorry. It goes right down the middle, and what ends up happening, and I wasn't able to show it when I was, you know, filming with the stupid potato over there. The lower legs scissor open like this, and then the upper and then the thighs are on an independent set of joints that essentially fold down like this. And then you close up the thigh, or you close up the lower leg around it. Well, it's this thing right here that concerns me. It's this motion here, because there's an additional levering that you have to contend with. And at the knees of both robots, that becomes an issue, because the knees have to take that weight. They have to act as an elbow, but they also have to act as a knee. And so could they have done it differently? Arguably, yes, but I wouldn't be able to offer an alternative of how they would do it differently. So this applies to Strafe and Afterbreaker specifically, or any other bot that has that separation feature. Yeah, nose cone is nice, whatever. Nose cone gets completely replaced in the Takara Tomy version. It's a completely different figure that's been painted up to look like he did in the G1 cartoon, not to resemble the G1 toy. And I think my favorite out of all these so far is probably going to go to Lightsteed, who's kind of the surprise favorite. I like his attitude. I like the spirit that comes out of him, and I like his triple barrel shotgun with a little sensor on the top. And is it just me, or was there no Bumblebee for Combiner Wars? Like, there might have been like custom painted whatevers, but like, was there a Bumblebee for Combiner Wars in 2015, 2016? I don't know. Is this still going? Yes, it is. So I really enjoy Lightsteed, and Strafe is pretty fun, despite the kind of engineering decision in the thighs here. I do like Strafe overall. Afterbreaker, not as good as his G1 counterpart, at least in terms of structural strength in the knees, and how unusually tight the what's it called, the shoulder joints are. They're very tight. They ratchet really hard, and considering how small these limbs are and what they're not supporting, those are ridiculously overpowered shoulder joints for something that doesn't need to be that tight. I wish the thighs had been tight, you know. Am I disappointed with this? Overall, not really. No, I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I had a second shot at it. And I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm satisfied with this. Speaking of not satisfied, I'm very sorry that this video ran for so long. The difficulty is that when you're doing your 2 cents on everything, with a single robot by itself, you comment on vehicle mode, you comment on robot mode, done. But then, when you talk about combiners, you've got 5 components that you have to do: vehicle mode, robot mode, and then you have to talk about the combined form. So that kind of magnifies the amount of time you spend on each of them, and it magnifies the amount of time that that's done with the unboxing overall. So that's why this one took so long. Combiners that I review, triple changing combiners, usually some of my longest videos, and there's not a lot I could do about it. So yeah. But I hope you enjoyed the 2 hour 47-minute runtime, unedited, of Computron, because I think next week I'm going to open up the other Combiner Wars set that I got at the same time on the same day from TF Source. So please look forward to that in the next week or so. And so with that, this is Ava Unit 4A saying thank you for tuning in.